Welcome to Magical Moments for that ease and betterment in your life. I'm Alena Chapman, your host, and I've got a different kind of nugget. I want to read a little something to you, and I put on your thinking caps, guys, because you know this. You know this when I tell you. It's the lyrics to a song. Okay? All right, are you ready? There's a lady who's sure all that glitters is gold, and she's buying a stairway to heaven. When she gets there, she knows if the stores are all closed, with a word, she can get what she came for. Ooh, and she's buying her stairway to heaven. Okay, I think you got the song, right? Here's the thing. This is one of my favorite songs. It was when I was growing up. I still listen to it. I love this song. Why? Well, number one, his voice is a killer. Led Zeppelin. But the thing is, just want to show that sometimes we can get lost. We can get lost in, it's like when you get into a diet program and they tell you, oh, you got to get these snacks that go with it. And oh my gosh, and there's these little diet pills that you can get that will speed it up for you. And you can get this too. And you buy all these little gold nuggets you think that are going to help you with your diet. But guess what? It doesn't help you lose weight unless you do the work, right? And sometimes I think our whole show is going to explore this more, but I wanted to give you a little opening on this. Sometimes all that glitter might feel like gold, but really the gold is not there. And really it's coming back to what you're doing. And as you'll learn in the show, there's a little bit more. I want you to this is a really good show, especially for those of us who think all the answers are right outside of ourselves as far as gaining that wonderful, true pathway to heaven or nirvana or the hermit's mystical cave or whatever it is that you are trying to go for. But really, it's coming back. And we're going to talk about how to do that. All right. And what we see out in the spiritual world. And I've worked in almost every church as a music director since I was 17. So I really do have seen the people who are trying to grab those little gold nuggets, thinking it's going to give them everything. So I have an incredible lady here, Krista Xiomara. Now, she has been on the show before, and I just love her. I love her. I can't get enough because she is right there with me on so many topics, and she's not as scared to say, hey, guys, let's open our eyes, right? She's a host and a creator on I'm Awake. Now what? Every time I read that, I laugh. I think that's so cute. Podcast. Incepted in 2018 as an audio community for anyone who is on the path of spirituality, healing, and personal development. At the age of 28, she was so young, Krista decided to walk away from her religion of origin after suffering from religious traumas and wounding. She would spend the next 6 years studying religion, philosophy, psychology, and spirituality in search of answers, healing, and a way to reintegrate fully into her humanity and divinity. After emerging from this experience, her focus has been to help others heal and come home to themselves by teaching the path of liberation, very tantra of you, integration, and inner peace. Her first nonfiction book is The Alchemy of Kindness, which I have told you, I just love that name. And it will be out in the summer of 2022. So with that, Krista, I want to bring you on. Hello, hon.
Hello, thank you for having me again. I'm very excited to have this discussion with you today.
Oh, I am too, because I think, this is something that I don't know about you, but I have been seeing it more and more and more. And it's like, I'm flabbergasted. I'm just flabbergasted. But so let's talk a little bit about you. And, I know we talked on the last show that you left, a pretty darn strict kind of offshoot of religion. And it was really did a lot of damage to you, and you've had to really build yourself up again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you were doing that, I mean, in that religion, did you see that people were trying to buy their way, buy the golden nuggets that would get them to the so-called nirvana?
Yes, and I got just as entrapped in that idea as well in my religious experience, because there is this idea of acts in order to get into the kingdom of heaven. And it's like, if you're not somebody who grew up religious, you can imagine it like a video game, and you're trying to collect all these tokens in order to get to the next level.
I love that.
And the irony about that is that the church, a lot of Abrahamic religions, there is always a next level. There's never an end point to say, like, yes, you have achieved holiness, you have achieved inner peace. It's like one more thing, give me one more dollar, give me one more indulgence, give me one more sacrifice or mortification to align yourself to be worthy in the eyes of God. And you can spend your entire life exhausting yourself in those practices in the hopes that if you die tomorrow, your soul will ascend to heaven. And that's a really, I think a very harmful way to go about our spiritual connection with the.
It's so false.
Yes, I saw that.
It's so it's actually damaging. It's funny because, you're paying. You're not paying money sometimes. It's acts, like you said, tokens, and you're really buying it with your time, your energy, and your discovery, instead of being on the journey of really gaining that connection in a higher sense. You're playing around with little rewards, and on the I did. You're getting pat on the head basically from whoever is the head of that organization, be that the priest, the pastor, the whatever, or the leader, the spiritual leader, and it's actually damning.
There's like a tether there. Yeah.
Say that again. A tether? What do you mean?
I was going to say there's also like a tether there to the acts and things that you get, right? It's like another way to keep you sort of in control, like, yes, maybe you gave enough money this month, or maybe you didn't do enough acts of service to the soup kitchen, and maybe next month you need to do more. So there's always this tether, this string back of control, which is kind of underlying as well.
Why do you think we fall into that? Why do you think we just want an easy pill? Okay, if I get enough tokens, this is easy. I understand this. If I act this, if I do this, and maybe I do a little sin over here, but that's okay. It gets fixed with this token over here. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, it's always interesting that there's always a loophole. That's what I think that's where the cracks are. I think to answer your question, I think it's two things. I think as a species, we have a propensity to follow, and then we also have a propensity to fear. And those two things combined make it so that we follow what we think is right at the time, but then we also fear what we don't know. So a lot of people engaging with their own mortality,
guilt.
If we're talking about getting to nirvana or heaven or what, blanket anything in there, it's really more about creating some sort of sense of certainty in your life. And that's how I think people get entrapped in this idea, is like they're kind of like, it's like a bank, it's like a savings account. Like you're trying to do all these things to create a savings account in case something bad happens, in case you die and
like insurance.
You don't know what happens. Yes, like an insurance policy. And really, like, heaven is here on earth, and heaven is within us. And when we do our own individual work of becoming whole, compassionate, kind, loving individuals that emanate that outward, then we don't have to worry about all of that, because we are living in alignment of our core values. And if we died tomorrow, and let's just say there was a judgment or a God or something, you could be assured that your life was exemplary. And that's really why it's important to stay present and live into your core values as a human being, and don't worry about the other stuff, in my mind.
There's a lot. I believe it's true. And I'm seeing the damage of this is that I see people like my dad, who is so hooked on the dogmas. And here he is. He's on the stairway to heaven. Literally, he is taking that step to climb, and it's really a pathway, but whatever. He is right there at that door of heaven. He's passing over, and he's more concerned on how you say the words of a man-made prayer, or how many beads are on that rosary. He's grasping at every little gold object, thinking that's going to give him the salvation to get into heaven. When really, that's not what it takes. That's the song, too, the Stairway to Heaven, because that really was based on the hermit who was going to the mystical mountain, the man who was going to the mystical mountain to find the hermit, the wise old hermit who was going to tell him all the secrets of the universe. And when he gets up there, no one's there. And he discovers he is the hermit. That's that whole song. That it has nothing to do with the outside hermit. It has nothing to do with all the gold nuggets that he had acquired. Do you find, I'm going to ask you, this is a loaded question. I'll ask you right now.
I'm ready.
Okay. In the mystical, spiritual world that we're in, okay, do you find that same problem exists?
Yes, I've said this a lot in my podcast, that I think it's also very dangerous in the world of spirituality. And when we say spirituality, we're lumping in a bunch of ideas and ideologies and theologies that people interchange, like Tantra, yoga, Hinduism, all of these things. There's this false sense of final destination, of true enlightenment. And I say on my podcast often that it's really a disservice to the people going in there, because you think you're going to get to some end point, just like you would in Christianity or Judaism or Islam, and the goal changes as well. And it just is not as pervasive. It's a little bit more undefined and harder to sort of put concrete arms around, but there's still this level of you're not good enough, or you haven't accomplished enough, or you're not conscious enough.
You don't have enough tokens. You don't have enough tokens.
Exactly. You don't have enough tokens. Yeah.
And so buy a gem. Right?
Yeah, so buy this crystal.
This crystal will now be your token. Do you see? It's true. I see. I'm not putting, yes, I'm going to get tons of, I know, I'm going to hear this, guys. Yes, Alena, those carry lots of force. And yes, I know they do. I know, hon. The energy, it's Gaia, it's Mother Earth, it's all that stuff. But I'll tell you, it's not the end all. And a gemstone can only be as powerful as the energy you also have. It feeds on you. It's a mutual.
Exactly.
So with this, I think that, isn't it funny? When you were talking, this is what I thought of. When I was growing up in Vermont, which is very, I think it's very sparsely populated compared to the rest of the United States. And so we were always trying to get people there. And then when they came, my parents would always say, oh my gosh, they come here because they love it, and then they want to change it and make it what they know. So we'd have all these people coming from other states saying, oh, well, where's the McDonald's? Where's this? And we didn't have that kind of stuff in Vermont at that time. And so I think that's what spirituality is having the problem with. They come from their religious background with all these things that they hate, the dogmas, the tokens, the never feeling like enough, always being kept in a victim role in a lot of ways, always trying to chase this elusive love that the universe has for us. And then they come over into the spirituality saying, I want freedom from that. I want to find myself. I want to find that incredible heaven within me. I want to open I know there's something bigger. And then they take all the dogmas and they say, okay, now, if I get to this place, I'll be closer to that perfect place. And it's like we can't let go of always having to aim for something, thinking we're better. That elusive betterness is way above us. And really the problem is with us. It's not that we create the system. Am I right or wrong?
You're absolutely 100% right, because we also have this strong desire to organize and create structure and ritual. And so I had a very similar experience happen when I was on my path of spirituality, and I got to the other side, and the other side was exactly dogmatic and rigid and controlling. And I'm like, I didn't come this far to come this far. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like, how come on the other side of the spectrum are these people who are saying, like, you have to do your downward dog at a 92% angle or you're not going to achieve enlightenment, you know? And I just thought, you know what's missing here? What's missing is the idea of sacred autonomy, which is the idea that, like, you are self-sufficient in your relationship with the divine, and in finding that relationship with the divine, you stay connected to everything that is, everything that was, and everyone around you. And that's not some airy-fairy idea. That is the truth of it. And I think we have to be very careful when we go on this path, especially if we start out religious or not. There's going to always be people who want to control, manipulate, dictate all of these things. And I would say to the listeners, the thing I found on my journey, and I'm grateful that I did, were teachers who said, do not listen to what I'm telling you. These are the things I know. Go out into the world and figure out for yourself. Find autonomy.
I did not start that way. Isn't that funny? And I wish I had. I did find that way. By the time I wrote Hello Soul, those were the teachers who I actually had to write Hello Soul, which was my journey back to my soul, that book, which is out now. Mm-hmm. I had to write that book after, because I didn't know what they were doing. Because these teachers were not telling me. They were dealing with the chakras. They were literally the universe. It wasn't the teachers. It was the universe. The universe would bring these teachers into my life, and each one was dealing with a different chakra. Like I had a shaman start with that root chakra, and that's all about taking away the identity of who you think you are and how you relate to this world, and really discovering who you are and how you relate to this world. And that is the foundation of your house. It's the foundation of all your beliefs and everything you do and act and create in this world. And so then I'd get a teacher who would come in and do the second chakra. And it was just, I didn't really understand that until the end. But when I first started in spirituality, it was, oh, you're not enough. Oh, you're meditating funny. Well, I was seeing black all the time. But for me, that's what I needed. You know, that was my growth. Or I do something that they said and it turned out differently, and they just look at me like, what? Or I found my guide, and my guide was named Joan, and it should have been Hickey Picky Docky or something. It was supposed to be some other name. And it couldn't be this simple American name, which I hate to tell you folks, but the names are for us to remember anyway. They really don't have names. So my mind can only comprehend Joan. So be it. It's Joan. I mean, and I was made, the people would laugh, you know, that my stuff was so simple. And they would say, you need this gem or you need this necklace to keep yourself protected at all times. And you've got to read this book for selling me stuff, And I finally got to the point where I said, I got to go out on my own. I got to just figure this out.
Yes.
And I think that and my gosh, even when I started speaking, you know, I dress pretty, well, I was simulated for a long time into the world, and I do like fashion, and I have what I like to wear. And when I do, I like blazers. I like that sturdy look sometimes. And when I went to
beautiful in all your blazers.
Oh, well, thank you, hon. When I went to a place to speak on the spirituality, they were poo-pooing me because I didn't wear what they wore. And I thought...
Right, because you didn't have dreadlocks and linen clothing.
Yes. Isn't that wild? And I thought, that's when it hit me. Why are you being so judgmental? We're not supposed to be that way, are we? You know? I thought that was very interesting.
Exactly about, like, it's the other side of the spectrum. And I think to your point about them telling you to overcomplicate, like, that's another thing we want to do. And really, I think
Yes.
distilled down to our very nature is so simple, and our connection to things is so simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. And if we're paying attention to our guides, to the divine, however it comes, sometimes it's as small as a whisper. But we love to overcomplicate things as human beings and say, like, that can't be it because it's too easy.
You know, that don't you find when you're working with people, Krista, and I find this, that's why I'm asking you, that my job is not to, I mean, I'm not like adding stuff, I'm deleting stuff. I'm deleting all the complication, they make everything. And then when you delete all that complication, yeah, the judgment on themselves, the harshness, the obligation, the feeling that they have to be this, whatever this person, they have to live this drama, they have to think this way, they have to put themselves down. I'm deleting. And then really, we're making it less complicated.
Yes. And that's the path of homecoming and liberation, is literally uncovering, like literally taking it, like you can imagine that you're born a child and you get into this family, into this culture, into this political situation, into this life. And each time you get into another layer, there's another piece of clothing on. And by the time you get to your adulthood, you have to start peeling each one of those layers off. And at the end of it, you reveal yourself as yourself. That's the work.
And we have to also learn to not wear all these damaged things as our frickin' medals.
Yes.
You know? I see it in everything. I see it even in generation things. It's coming up everywhere. Well, I'm a Gen Xer, and we didn't have anybody at home when we came home, and we didn't have this, and we had to do everything ourselves. Wearing it as a medal, I'm a tough girl. That's what you're putting on you. I'm tough. I'm a survivor. I'm a self-made person, and they don't understand that's a label, and you've got to strip that off. That's another thing you're clinging to, and it presents
the
hazards.
Identity that we want to put on.
The identity we want to put on. Exactly. So do you think that in the spirit, that the spirituality world is going so fast, do you think it's just going to become another one of the dogma-like religions?
Yes, but it's just more fractured. I think we see that now. I think it is becoming an opiate for the masses. I mean, we do see it. And I think the real calling for people who don't want to practice dogmatic anything is to have a spiritual practice of curiosity, which is questioning, which is having contemplative practices, checking in with yourself, challenging other people, even if they don't like it, with other ideas, because that's how we break away from this formality of wanting to follow.
I like that.
That's really important.
It is.
Yeah, I think that's really important on this path.
And if you remember, and I think it's a big giant key as you're going out there, how is this helping me open up myself more? And because it comes back to you. Remember, the hermit went up to the mountain to find, the person went up to the mountain to find the hermit, to find that he was the hermit. That means he is the only path to nirvana. He is the only path, or he or she is the only path to heaven. Nobody else can give it to you. No stone can give it to you. No little bead can give it to you. So it really, that curiosity has to come within and about oneself. I like that. Hey, Krista, how can we find out, people should know, because this is the third time on your show. You're going to become a standby on my show. Because it's good.
I love talking to you. I can talk to you all day long.
Yeah, we're going to have coffee. I think it would be a very long coffee. It'd be fun. But really, how can they find out about you?
Yeah, so you can head over to Instagram. I hang out there most days at IANW Podcast. But you can also head over to the website, which is the same, www.ianwpodcast, and check out, old interviews and you can just hang out there if you want to, but that's that's where I am.
When I go on road trips, that's what I do. I just go down the list of podcasts. You know what I mean? I go down yours. I go down some others.
Same.
Yeah. If I have a 9-hour trip, it's a long podcast day. Well, anyway, and everyone out there, really, when you start to discover that things are within you. It's scary at first. I get it. It's scary. Oh my God, I can't get a magic pill, right? We're a magic pill society. But it's also so much easier because then you know you're on this magical musical journey of taking the steps when you're ready to discover more about you. And it can be really, really fun. Well, that's why I wrote Hello Soul. It can be really fun and it can be revealing. But each one doesn't give you a token. It gives you an incredible realization that opens you up to the trueness that's you and the universe, because it's all one. Remember, love is the way to spirit. And really, love is much deeper than we think it is. It's more encompassing than we could ever imagine. So when we open ourselves to love, then spirit has a clear pathway into our lives, our spirit, and who we are. There's no other way to do it. Namaste. I love you all. Check out Alena Chapman on YouTube if you want more and more of these magical moments.